If I could go back in time, all I'd look at is opportunity job average. What's the average ticket in that industry? Because like whether it's solar, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, roofing, like I would already be a multi-billionaire. It's the same systems. It's just a different widget with a much, there's more competition. You don't understand my industry. You don't know what area of time. You don't understand Bidenomics, blah, blah, blah. It's all about, I got to get the same customers. There's 500 competitors just here in Phoenix in garage doors, right? So I don't want to hear, I just have to do it really, really well.
We're in Arizona for another edition of the Big Fish Cares podcast. We got 5 episodes that we're doing down here. And when I thought about Phoenix, one name came to mind, especially in the contractor world, and it was Tommy Mello, the founder of A1 Garage Door. If you look him up on YouTube, the internet, he's the $200 million garage door guy. Going to be way more sooner than later. And I'm in the roofing industry, and there's very few companies even doing 200 million. So like in garage doors is a lot smaller of a ticket.
Way smaller.
And so like my first question is just like, how? That is like so cool. And I know like, you know, you got a really cool brand story and things like that. I know we know some of the same people. But yeah, just for my audience, because they're going to be like, $200 million contractor, especially in garage doors. My uncle sold garage doors and did roofing. And I remember I'd sell a garage door for like $1,500, $2,000. Like, you know, this is like 10 years ago.
Our average ticket in garage doors is $6,200, and that's like really high for our industry.
Yeah. So like, yeah, that's just
we run 18,000 jobs a month. So we're in 23 states. Everybody's like, I'm going to get into garage doors. I'm like, dude, if I could go back in time, all I'd look at is opportunity job average. What's the average ticket in that industry? Because like whether it's solar, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, roofing, like I would already be a multi-billionaire. It's the same systems. It's just a different widget with a much, there's more competition. You don't understand my industry. You don't know what area of time. You don't understand Bidenomics, blah, blah, blah. It's all about, I got to get the same customers. There's 500 competitors just here in Phoenix in garage doors, right? So I don't want to hear, I just have to do it really, really well. And I've got to have systems to scale it. And instead of growing and owning the customer and doing everything for the customer, I decided to scale nationwide with garage doors. And I studied HVAC for 6 years and went to every shop I could. I went to every $100 million shop in the country. And I said, I'm just a garage door guy. I came in with a lot of humility. And I'm like, listen, I just want to learn. I'm just a small garage door guy. They're like, garage doors? Come in. You ask us anything. Meet our CFO, meet our CMO. And they tell me how they got service agreements, how they established financing, what they built in a service titan, how they did everything. And I just would take books of notes and go implement. And finally, I'm like, man, I think I'm bigger than that company. But I got to run a lot of jobs, lots of jobs.
Yeah. A lot of discipline with those salespeople and project managers and coordinators. That's the biggest struggle that I find is just being able to repeat the training processes over and over again because they get kind of boring, especially for the entrepreneur, like the purebred entrepreneurs. They get a little bit bored doing the same thing over and over again. How are you wired, and how were you able to develop those types of systems?
Al Levy, the 7-power contractor, came in about 8 years ago and literally told me, he's like, this business is not ran on systems. You're the best firefighter I've ever met. He goes, we're going to establish manuals, SOPs, depth charts. We're going to show people what needs to be done, how they move up in the company, how they get PTO, the safe way to do things, the right way to do things. And we spent years establishing these SOPs. And it's all documented, and it's all in processes, and it's taught right there. There's 32 guys that are about to graduate, technicians. We got 40 coming next month, hopefully 50 the following month. Technicians that never been in the industry, trained soup to nuts. Takes 2 months, 1 month in their market, 1 month in Phoenix. We've got apartments here. There's a lot that has to happen. They got to have a truck set up. They got to have $5,000 worth of tools we give them. They got to have an iPad. They need to know how to use finance tools, which we call promotions. They got to understand service titan. They need to understand operational, technical, and sales. And sales is not a bad word. It's just being a good human being, making eye contact, smiling, and actually having the customer's best considerations at heart when we help them come up with options.
So your model is probably a lot like HVAC, where the technician is the sales guy, which that helps probably create lots of extra profit. Because in my business, I wish we could do that. I wish the roofer could be a salesperson, but the salesperson can barely be a salesperson, let alone that. So how do you do that? How do you take a tech and teach them sales if they've never done it before? Because for me, I feel like I've been in sales for 25 years, and I'm still feeling like I don't really know everything there is to know about sales.
It's an 8-step sales process, but our job is to get a client interested in a new garage door. And then we transfer it to our product specialist. So I've got 16 product specialists that work from their house with 3 monitors. We just transfer the call to them. They build the door on the house with their mouse. They talk to the client. It's a 15-minute close. And we build, the 85% of it is a technician building rapport and getting them interested. And the rest of it, our top guys work from home. They take 15 opportunities a day, 15-minute close. And it's a much more scalable. Your guys could only get to 3 to 4 houses a day max. Yeah. Our guys can get to 15, and our techs do all the hard, heavy lifting.
There's a lot of people in the roofing industry right now that are talking about this inside-outside sales model for that reason. You know, everyone's got different skill sets and superpowers. They're basically taking what we knew about sales 10 years ago and breaking it into almost like 3 parts. You know, inside, outside, and then, you know, someone that's doing a follow-up and the automations and things like that.
Right.
Where do you see, and I don't want to talk about business this whole podcast because we usually talk about cooler stuff than that, but I had to ask you some of these questions.
No, I love this. I love business.
I know you do. I've read.
And one more thing.
Yeah.
We're doing a lot of revenue, but we always say revenue is for vanity, profits for sanity. You know, we're right next to 25%. We're edging on the line of that. We'll get to 30%. So a lot of people brag about revenue. They get in a room, they're like, 100 million, 10 million, 5 million, but they're not making profits. I've seen their books. All these influencers online that pretend to be like they have these big revenue, they're not making profit. People are like, why do you even do ads on the internet? What? I'm like, listen, I help a lot of businesses, but the deal is I also am an investor. Like I like to get into things. Like I can't be, my full-time job is a CEO, but I get behind good things. You know, you see Sebastian over there.
Yeah.
Umbrella Voice in the other room. Great company. Good thing to get behind. I don't have to do anything. I just invest in the owner. This is my job. I'm the CEO of A1. But I invest in things I believe in. So I just wanted to throw that out there as like, you know, people are like, he must be fake. He must not make that much money. Why is he doing ads on Facebook? Well, my brand is my everything. No one could buy me. They could buy my likeness for certain things. But at the end of the day, I'll invest an ungodly amount of money into my personal brand. Because it changes lives. It helps me in a lot of other ways.
I'm all about that. I believe the personal brand is, like you said, you can't take that away from you. You can't sell it. You can license it, but you can't sell it.
You can do the Joe Rogan thing.
When did you become really aware of like, oh my gosh, my personal brand's actually bigger than my business brand? Like, when did that identity shift happen?
You know, I was listening to 10X, what's his name?
Grant Cardone.
Yeah, Grant Cardone, and he goes, there's 2 things I invest in. 2 things. He's like, number 1 is real estate. Number 2 is my personal brand. And he goes, the personal brand, and I was on Grant Cardone's podcast. And he's like, personal brand, man, it opens doors. Personal brand is, marketing's more important than sales, times 10. And so I finally, you know, I met Gary Vaynerchuk. I work alongside of Dan Martell. He's a mentor coach of mine. And all of a sudden I realized, man, personal brand is everything. Like, it's so much. It's why people even come to work at A1. The personal brand has helped out A1 indirectly more than anything.
Yeah.
The people, like I asked the 32 guys here, why did you come work here? 20 of them said because of you. We saw you on YouTube or listened to your podcast or whatever. So that's a big deal. I want to attract the right people that I want to work with, my coworkers.
They knew Tommy Mello before they even knew what A1 probably was, right? That's interesting. What is what's your long game? Like, what's the long game for you? I know you're back with private equity, right?
Yeah, so I own half the company now. I mean, my end goal, and there's no destination, but it's obviously I made a commitment to the limited partners and the investors, which is the sponsor. I told them I would give them a fat return. So I'm going to get them their fat return. I'm going to become the chief visionary officer, and I'm going to go for another ride. I'm going to have to, but I'm not going to be in the front seat. I'm not going to be flying the plane. I'm going to be along coaching the guys, being their mentor, running the meetings. But my end goal, I mean, what I really want to do is I'm reverse engineering the life I want, which is to work 4 days a week. It's to work probably 4-hour days, 1 long day. It's to build teams around me. If you look at Richard Branson or Elon Musk, they're not, Jeff Bezos, they're not in 12 hours a day anymore. They're building teams. They're hiring top-down building. They're hiring people that have been where they want to go in each company. Richard Branson has over 100. And it's not all about work. It's about decision-making, critical decisions, letting the data tell you what the next steps are. So I want to golf more. a lot more time with family. I got to start my personal family soon. I'm not married and don't have kids
Yeah,
yet.
you're 40 years old, right?
41.
41.
Yeah.
So I'm 42. I had a baby. I have an 18-month-old. So I mean, it's definitely doable. And you're in great shape. You got a lot of energy. Like you'll be good even if you have a baby at 50.
I know.
You'll be good.
I'll be good. She's, Bree's in the other room. She's 25, so I got a little bit
Oh,
of time.
you got time. Yeah, that's awesome. So I don't know if this is public or not. I heard from a little friend of ours that you maybe are getting into some land in Idaho.
Yeah.
Is that public or not?
Yeah, I don't care.
All right, I don't know if it is, but so that's interesting because doesn't Ed Milet live up in that area?
I don't know about Ed Milet.
Doesn't he do
Chris, what the heck's Chris' last name? Big solar company. Oh man, I'm brain farting. But he lives right there.
In the solar world. Believe it or not, I'm a retail roofer, small little company. But here's the deal. So live the life you want, design your own life. Idaho. Why Idaho? And what are you building up there? And what's your plans for that? Because I feel like something cool is going to be happening up there.
So, me and Bree were looking to get out of here in the summer long term. It gets 120 degrees.
It's smoking hot. It's like 100 degrees today. And
it's not
Pittsburgh.
bad.
I know. It's like mild for Arizona.
I'm from Michigan. Like I've been to every, Great Lake and everything like that. And
you a Wolverines fan?
Yeah, I like this. I like Michigan State better.
Oh, okay, that's good. I'm a Buckeye guy.
Yeah, I like Buckeyes too. So we went to Lake Minnetonka, then we went to a couple lakes in Texas, and then we went to Flathead Lake in Montana. And we were just looking for the coolest lake to live on with good fishing, tons of golf, and just a really cool town. And my buddy Travis Ringy, HVAC company in Northern Phoenix, Pro Skill, ended up selling to Service Champions. His family lives up there, so he spends a long time up there. Moved up there, now he moved back, but he still spends his summers out there. And he's like, "You got to come check out this lake. It's Pend Oreille Lake. It's right next to Coeur d'Alene." And I'm like, "Yeah, we'd love to look at a lake." And so we went out there and we fell in love. Like it's a massive lake. And I used to be a bar back 20 years ago at this place called Bottle Blonde now, but it was called Access Radius. Well, the owner lives out there that I know. I fixed all of his garage doors back. We still do, but I'm not the guy doing the work.
Really? Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. So
did you buy back some time?
I bought back some time. And we went out there, and so we go see Les. Travis has got a speedboat. We pulled up to his house. He's got 14,000 square feet. And he goes, "Tommy," he goes, you should look at this 5 acres next to me. It's called Springy Point. It's like the heart of the lake. They call the house I'm building the Jewel of Sand Point. And so I ended up buying the 5 acres, and it's getting framed out next 2 weeks. The framers are going up. They're actually coming from Phoenix. There's 10 of them. They're going to spend 4 months framing it. And they say never build the nicest house in the neighborhood. I'm building the nicest house in Idaho, I think.
It doesn't really matter, right? I mean, like...
For me, it's like a place...
It's a forever place, right?
Well, what I'm buying is I'm buying experiences and stories and fun. I'm buying time with family. I'm buying time for A1 to come out there. I'm buying time. Like, I believe that the stories and the fun and the experiences that'll come out of this place, it's not the house I care about. It's who I'm spending time with and how we can all get together. And so it's 45 minutes from Jack Nicklaus course, one of the most expensive golf clubs. It's badass. It's right next to the mountain, so 25 minutes to the top of the mountain. It's called Gazer is the golf resort. And it's 12 minutes from the private airport. And I got a bowling alley I'm putting in and a golf simulator, so all winter long. So you got the winter sports, you got the summer sports. I got great neighbor. And, I just felt like I've got friends up there. My buddy Keegan moved there. Travis is out there. And I got about 5 other buddies going to buy a place on the lake. So
you guys all going to throw in for a jet then?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, gonna have to, right?
And Chris Lee was the guy I was thinking of. Chris Lee lives near there at a different lake right by. And it's just if you had to tell me pick heaven on earth, is it an ocean house? Is it a lake house? Is it in a big city like New York or Chicago or LA? My place is on a lake. It's good fishing. It's got the sports. It's got the fun stuff to do all year round. That's like heaven on earth. You got the trails and everything else. And I'll have all the winter sports, the snowmobiles, all the summer stuff, the jet skis, and the fun stuff like the new one that you can hold onto the remote and you just kind of surf on the water. But that's what's fun. And that's what I'm looking forward to.
And then you'll be able to turn that employee experiences. I'm
Absolutely.
assuming. Yeah, like
We're gonna have
reward trips
lot
and
of
stuff like
trips.
that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be good for recruiting. I saw the sign outside, always hiring, right?
Yeah.
How long has that sign been up?
I got that sign made a couple years ago, and it said something else on there, and I was like, just put always. We're always hiring, because that's what it's all about. Is like, I used to focus on how do you get more leads. Now, half of my marketing brain is how to get the right people, the A+ players. Always be recruiting, not always be closing. Always be recruiting.
So good. So I met your friend, Dan Antonelli. We were both speaking at a Contractor Dynamics workshop started by Joseph Hughes. And I know you were on his podcast before, but tell me a little bit of the story of how Dan helped you with your brand. And like, you know, I know what it looked like before because he shows it all the time.
Yeah.
Now I see your big mugshot on all the vans.
Yeah. Yeah. So Al Levy, once again, came in, taught me a bunch of stuff, and he kept saying, you know, I don't really like your brand. Like, it just doesn't resonate. And one day he took a picture of it. He put it in black and white, and he shows me a picture black and white. And he goes, Tommy, tell me what screams out here. Does it scream out that you're a garage door guy? He goes, you got Yelp, you got Angie, you got BBB, you got everything you do on the side of this thing. He goes, it's not really clear to me. It doesn't scream out I'm a garage door guy. It doesn't, the branding. And I go, well, what should I do? And he goes, well, Ken Goodrich got done by this guy, Dan Antonelli. And at the time, Al Levy was a partner in Zoom Drain, and now it's a franchise. And he goes, I'd talk to Kick Charge. And so I was $40 million of revenue, mind you. I wasn't like this tiny company. And I called Dan up, and Dan gives me, at the time, which I thought was a lot of money, it was like 25, 30 grand. And
that was a lot of money for a $40 million company?
Well,
man, you're tight.
I was like, for a logo?
Yeah, you're conservative. No, I get it.
I was like, for a logo?
Yeah.
And he's like, no. He's like, there's a lot more to this. And at the time, I didn't understand. But I was like, just listen to Al. I trust Al. And I sent him the money. And he came up with this. I said he literally asked me a million questions. And he decided to hold this one real tight to him. He didn't put me with a lot of his other people. And I said, I still want my character. I said, here's how we're going to do it. And he said, I'm going to do a complete competitive analysis of all your competitors. We're going to make something that looks nothing like anything else. He goes, everyone's going to know what you do. He goes, Tommy, your yard signs are different than your stickers, are different than your Valpak, are different than your signature, are different than your website, are different than your vehicles. He goes, we're going to wrap all that up, and people are going to want to work for you. So here's what happened. We came up with the brand. We rewrapped everything. We got new trucks.
How much was that?
That was a lot. But then I understood.
That 25 grand was a drop in the bucket, right?
Yeah, it was millions of dollars. But all of a sudden, conversion rate was through the roof. Average tickets went through the roof. People were lined up to work for us. They're like, we see you everywhere. And now I'm like, talk to people, and they're like, was it worth it? I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, I coach a lot of companies. Like, I help a lot of people. We do shop tours. The number one thing you could do is have your brand dialed in. You're betting everything on it. Some people will say their last name is like Kevorkiewicz Garage Doors. Don't do your last name unless it's like, what's a good one here?
Coach K.
There's some really good, like Bueller, Jason, like Bueller.
Yeah,
like that's catchy.
Yeah.
Right? Jason Bueller.
Yeah. Well, my last name's Fisher, and so we call it the Big Fish Contracting Company. And
that works.
And in 2015, when I created this little fish logo, now the construction company has a hammer in his hand. This is the podcast logo. People thought I was crazy in 2015 in Pittsburgh. Having a fish represent a roofing company, people would be like, my mom was like, they might think that you're down there selling boats or something down there at Three Rivers Stadium. And I'm like, not when we create the best customer service roofing company. I mean, then they're going to know Big Fish means roofing, not the other way around.
Yeah,
so
it's true. You know, the mascot is a piece of it, but it doesn't have to be. And Dan's done like 2,500 brands. He's signing up PE companies. Like, I look at some brands and I'm like, I don't remember them. They don't stand out. There's no, and then coming up with the right jingle, the right messaging, the right story, the story band by Donald Miller is like, that all ties in. And even some of the stuff the Wizard of Oz, Roy Williams does, it all ties together with the brand. All of a sudden, your cost per click on PPC is half. People remember you. You're getting more search terms. Like, if I could go back and talk to my younger self in 2010, and Dan Antonelli was around, I would have said, if he would have charged me $50,000 back then and I didn't have any money, I would have figured out a way. Like, that's the first thing I would do.
If you would have known that, though, but knowing what you knew now, if he came to you, you'd have been like, dude, you're crazy.
Well, if I could talk to myself, I'd probably believe me.
Yeah, all right.
You know, I'd be like, dude, I've been through this journey.
Gotcha.
You need to go with this guy.
So if there's a $2 million contractor out there that's making $200,000 a year, just kind of, he's got a nice job for himself, right? You would tell him to go out and spend, let's just say he's got 3 trucks. You would tell him to go out and spend the $30,000 for Dan, the other, $15,000-$20,000 for the truck wraps. He's going to be in $50,000. You're going to tell him to go do that right now, right? If he's got a sucky brand with, in the roofing business, it's 3 triangles and some initials.
There's a lot of questions like, are you commercial, residential?
They're residential.
Yeah, absolutely. Because literally, like, the competitive analysis alone, like, what does every HVAC guy do? Red, white, and blue with, like, snow coming down. We're like, no, you got to get different. You got to be different. And yes, I tell everybody, but here's the deal. If you're barely getting by and this is like your Hail Mary to rebrand and you're barely got any money in the account, probably like fix your booking rate first. Like book every phone call. Like wait till you have enough money because like this isn't like going to save your business from going bankrupt. But if you want to grow a business where everybody feels part of a team and you got the right mission, vision, core values, and you want to distinct yourself, and you want higher ticket averages, and you want happier, better morale, and the brand is everything. Yes, 100%. But it's not like, hey man, I can barely make payroll. Let me go take a loan out to get branded.
You have to have good customer service. You have to have consistent processes. You have to actually have sales, and then brand matters. So brand equals freedom. I always tell people.
Dude, the deal is like people know our brand. Like I was wearing socks the socks in a plane the other day, and it said A1 from day one. And I was just sitting there like this on the plane, and a lady goes, A1 from day one. And she started singing my jingle. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, dude, it's working. But it was kind of funny because I was like, I've never had that happen on a plane because of socks.
And she doesn't know your face.
No,
like
she didn't.
She didn't know your face,
because
right?
Some people are like, you're the guy on the side of the van, but she just knew the jingle.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know if she put 2 and 2 together. But
when did the jingle come? Like what year did the jingle come out?
The jingle actually came from Upwork, and I wrote it. And it's a whole song, but I was like, I always used to say, yeah, we're A1 from day one, baby. A1 all the way, top notch.
Did you pick A1 because of the phone book?
Oh, yeah.
2007. So you were just like all the old school guys, even though you're only 40 or 41. But like, yeah.
Alphabetically, I talked to a guy one day, and he goes, there's a trick in the yellow book, and it was the last year. He's like, and I thought I was like a genius. I'm like, yeah, anywhere there's alphabetical order, A1 comes. The only thing that comes before A1 is 1A. And 1A doesn't sound right.
What about AA?
No, AAA, none of that. A1 comes before
A1's
that. If you were to
first.
put it alphabeticize
That's good to know.
Yeah, A1 comes before all of it.
Interesting. So you did say something about core values, mission, things like that. On the way here, I was listening. I wanted to listen to a couple podcasts that you did just to kind of get your feel. I mean, I see your ads, right? The personal brand ads and stuff like that. I know a lot of guys in the industry that you've been, HVAC, roofing. Everyone says you're an amazing human being, but I wanted to hear your podcast. And I saw that you had Gino Wickman on your podcast, from EOS, the guy that teaches everybody how
Traction.
to Yeah. When did you get introduced to EOS?
So personally, I kind of took EOS and I took a bunch of other stuff and made my own up. I mean, I don't do the big rocks and all that stuff. I believe it's a great system. I believe it's probably one of the best systems to follow. I had Gino Wickman probably on the podcast over 4 years ago. He's from Michigan. I'm from Michigan.
Yeah. How'd you get him 4 years ago?
I don't remember exactly how I got introduced to him, but the podcast, The Home Service Expert, is number 11 in the country for business right now. We got 220,000 downloads last month. It's because we
got to figure out how to get on that show, Jorge.
Yeah, we prep a lot. We're getting really good people on, and I think people are like, it doesn't always apply to their business, but there's always gold nuggets. And I used to be purely home service, and I think we've expanded the reach because you could take this stuff. Like, how do you find a great CFO? And we just get like we're doing now is telling stories, but it's really successful people. I mean, we've had literally where you're sitting, I had Dan Martell. He just came in and did it, and I've had really, really smart, good people.
Was he doing like a media tour in Phoenix? And it was one of those things where he says, I'm coming to Phoenix.
He'll do 7 podcasts.
Yeah. And you just gotta be one of the people that he can stop at in 3 hours, right? And
the deal is
he's fast.
He's very good at what he does, but we kept talking, and he kept calling me, and he's like, dude, you need to start a program. Like, I've got SaaS Academy. Mm-hmm. And he's like, he didn't sell me hard. He just said, dude, I'd like to help you. And I'm like, yeah. And we talked about what it meant, what it would be. And I'm like, I'm in. And it was the biggest thing we talked about is I changed my buying persona. Like, I buy the best now. Like, there was a time where I was like, make a deal, Tommy. Like,
Well,
even
yeah,
with
20
the Antonelli.
25,000 was a
I
lot.
was like,
Yeah,
I wanted to like, hey, man, make a deal. I mean, my first house, I remember, I was making a deal on the roof. It leaked 3 years later. The deck leaked. I got a hot water heater. It fell apart. Like, I made a deal on everything. You could bounce a golf ball. It was hollow on all the tile.
Yeah.
I thought I was like this great negotiator. I'm like, I'm going to go flip houses. I was paying $1 a square feet installed on the tile. Like,
Got to watch out. That could get passed down through your organization if your people see you doing that.
well, now it's different. And this is what me and Dan talked about. He goes, you wonder why people are afraid to spend money with you? Because people are buying from you the way that you buy.
How you
the
buy
way
is the
I
way-
tip.
yeah.
I was just at a wedding. I actually was the officiator of the wedding.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it's my third wedding. And I threw the lady $400 tip. Like $100 every time I had not 4 drinks, but whatever. And Dan said his price, I don't negotiate because it changed the way people buy from me. It really did.
Yeah.
And if I'm like got a deal, Tommy, everybody wants to make a deal with me. And like
We call the guys in the roofing industry Tank Top Tommy.
Tank Top Tommy?
Tank Top Tommy's like chucking the trucks, Dan in the van, Tank Top Tommy.
oh my gosh, I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
There you go. Yeah, because everyone knows that guy that shows up, that contractor that shows up with a tank top,
Oh, yeah.
some cigarettes and things
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
he's
So-
on the back of his truck writing down the estimate.
Yeah.
It takes about a half an hour.
And you know that customer is deep down inside thinking like, do I really want to do business with this guy? But then there's the people that like, if you show up like in a souped up truck and things like that, you're kind of showing off. But like, it all depends on the type of clientele you're looking to get, right?
If you're looking for affluent, what you're gonna say is, what do people always talk about? What differentiate themselves? They're like, we're open weekends, we do background checks. But those aren't differentiators. Out of the last 1,000 roofs we did, 997 started on time, and they got finished on time. The other 3 were rectified within 2 weeks. And here's the data. If you're going to do like things that differentiate you, they've got to be historical facts based on your performance that are going to impress the client. There's been all these studies done. Do you think price is the first consideration for good? It is for 4% of the world. But the other 96%, price comes number 9. Who's in my house? Who's around my family? If you got daughters and a wife, what's the warranty like? Are they leaving nails everywhere? What's the quality of the product? Like all these things matter more. They're more important. And if you make it about the price, it is about the price. But if you make it about the value and the things that you're going to do and the proven track record you have, it's a completely different conversation. If your marketing attracts that thing. Now, if you're on Craigslist all day and you're doing got a deal and you're on Angie, yes, those are the type of people you're attracting. But if you're on the right marketing, you're not make a deal, discount city. If your name of your brand is affordable roofing, you're going to attract people that are cheap. So don't be called affordable. Like, don't be called, we do it for less. So many people try to compete on price. And what happens when you go to a marketplace is you're like, how do I price? What do we normally do? We call every other roofer, every other garage door company, and we say we're going to offer a little bit more for a little bit less. We compete on price, even though the guy we're copying is making $100,000 a year and has no business. He's about to go bankrupt. So a lot of people don't understand how to build a price book. You add up all your costs to do things, to take your guys to dinner, to go on trips, to buy new trucks, to have the latest CRM, to have the best management team, and then you add up profit on top of that, 15, 20%, and then that's how you build your price book. And you make it about value. You make it about different. I don't sell apples to apples. I sell oranges. Like, my packages are not like anybody else's. We've trademarked all of our parts. Like, you can't even find. We've got a trademark. We show our customers. No one else carries this. Like, why would I want to sell? Oh, we could do that for less. Oh, you want that? Sounds great. Yeah, let's do it. And so we got our builder grade 1-star. We got a little bit better. You know, most people usually fall into the 4-star, the 5-star, but you said you spent a lot of time in your garage. You said you got a kegerator. The kids are out here playing. You've got a mini split. You know, I would go with a high U factor in our value with the lifetime warranted parts. It's polyurethane versus polystyrene. And it's only an extra $1,500 versus the 5-star. And it comes with Deco hardware. It comes with the surge protector. It comes with the 100,000 cycle rollers, the max life springs. Plus it comes with a service agreement.
Does
for
it
5
wash your
years.
car while
It will do all of that. And it comes with all the features. You can close it from anywhere in the
I mean,
world.
you garage
Amazon-
door guys are smart because, like, you definitely learned that from HVAC with the 6 options. Because in roofing, we can barely do 3 and, like, get through it. So,
Well, I'll tell you.
I mean, you guys have some high level people.
It's years of studying and being the dumbest guy in the room and hiring great people.
Do you really think you're the dumbest guy in the room?
I hire people that, like, I think now I got to get into different rooms. I've always been able to elevate the rooms I'm in. But here's the deal. If I went and met Jeff Bezos and I was down here, even right now, there's no way I could even fathom. Like, I just hired a chef that's starting May 3rd. It's Jeff Bezos' chef when he's in town. So the guy only works, 3 days a year.
It's got to be available.
Yeah. So
and if Jeff comes into town, you're not getting service.
I know that. And I'm okay with that. Maybe I'll get an intro.
Maybe you'll get an invite,
But you can't go from this room to this room. You want to go to the next room, then the next room. Because you wouldn't even know. Like, some people I talk to, they're like, hey, dude, I'm doing $300,000 of revenue. I'm like, I don't know if I could help you. Like, I was there. And I can tell you kind of the way I did it and the things I've learned along the way. But first, you have a job. Like, you're still running the jobs. You're still in a truck. Like, you're not managing people. You're answering all the phone calls. Like, the first thing is hire a great executive assistant and quit doing minimum wage jobs. But it's so hard to help. So my next level is going to be like hanging around with like billion-dollar revenue companies.
Well, I was going to ask you that. So you're 200. You're going to be trying to hit 300. When on your roadmap do you get the big B word? Because I will tell you, I just got out of the day-to-day like 3 years ago, and so hanging out in this world with like guys like you, like, is still kind of new to me. And so I've met Gary Vee and a couple other people, but I don't really know. And in contracting, you're probably one of the biggest guys that I've met, because it's hard. I mean, it's a big number to get to. I don't care what business you're in, first of all. But
well, that's what's funny.
When are you going to hit the bill, the B word? Because then I can be like, hey, kid, billionaire, Tommy Mello, check out the podcast.
So $1 billion in revenue. This is where
I know it's not $1 billion in profit. I know
all the people on YouTube and TikTok, which TikTok is a bunch of guys that kids that hang out in their mom's basement. But let's just do the math. Let's just give me a multiple that you've heard is good. Give me like a good multiple.
In roofing, it's 7 to 9 times is pretty good if you're retail.
So we'll just say 10.
But I feel like you guys in the garage door business with service and maintenance got to be cracking some good ones.
Let's just say 10, right? So I got to hit 100 million in EBITDA. That would be $1 billion company. Now the multiples are higher if you've got an integrated business. This is where all these guys that come from PE, they're like junior guys. They don't really know what they're doing. They go, I'm just going to go buy all these companies. But there's no economies of scale. There's no one call center. There's no one marketing company that's like the marketing.
University.
Well, it's
got the university.
That's a big piece of it too.
Heck
how
yeah,
you train
man.
technicians.
I was going to ask you, is that a separate business?
No, because that's only for my company.
No, I know, but I was just thinking like you could create a separate business.
I don't want to train my competition. Why would I want to do that?
Because they'd eventually come work for you.
Well, do you know the conflict of interest there if I send somebody over to Tommy to go work for A1?
Or you train them and then you buy them.
Well, there's a lot of things we're working on. I mean, I'm making some changes, but what I've learned from like companies like there's some great big training programs is these PE companies just go out and scoop all the best companies out of them. And there's a company right now, and they're a good company, but they're going out and buying all these garage door companies. They're promising the world, and you're going to get to run your own company. We're just going to assist you. And they're buying them all at once because there's no way that sells. It's a Frankenstein. How does the chart of accounts, finance reporting, CRM, payroll systems, even the price book, and even like the economies of scale, one call center, one marketing center, one financial center. Like, no one wants to buy this. The back 5 years ago, you could buy a bunch of roofing companies and say we got the 10 million of EBITDA, and they're all running independently, and people would have bought that. But now it's all got to be integrated, and that's the hard part.
Yeah, implementation and integration are the hardest. You know, that just brought up another name. I just went and visited Lance Bachman's place out in Philly. I don't know.
I talked to Lance for an hour this weekend.
Last month, and that's cool. He's trying to do that. You know, he's got like I walked in on a sales training happening. There's a marketing department that's in-house. You know, he's buying up companies across the country, and he's trying to integrate some of this stuff. So that was kind of cool to watch him be able to do that.
Lance understands marketing. Lance understands how to drive the leads. If you get the sales right, you know, Lance is just going to build a lot of businesses, I believe, over the next decade at 10 million of EBITDA. And it's so, in my mind, if you told me, Tommy, go build $10 million EBITDA companies, I could probably do 10 every 3 years. But when you start the multiple and the opportunities, like, look, here's the deal. I'll turn again to the next company. I'll still have a significant ownership, and then we'll IPO. When the IPO comes, that's called mega wealth. That's when I'm.
It's like when you're at like the New York Stock Exchange, cutting the ribbon and ringing the bell.
That's when the real money comes, and like, you know, obviously.
What are you gonna do with all that money? Let's talk about that, because like it?
Well, I've
Is it
shared
ever-
along
is
the
it-
way.
is it-
25 millionaires came out of the first deal. There will be another 50 millionaires that come out of this deal. There will be a lot of people. I've got 25 technicians right now with equity. And so I want to have a lot of people win. And obviously the thing is like when I do deals with businesses, they got to have EIP, which is Equity Incentive Program. And they get to help the people that help them come up. But I mean, what's so cool is there's a lot of options. I'm definitely going to get into philanthropy. But right now I made a deal with these limited partners and this sponsor.
Yeah, you gotta go hard.
That I got to go return their investment. I want to be
That's
known
smart.
for when I shake your hand, I come through.
Guaranteed money.
I want to help a lot of people. You know what I mean? And the money's working harder for me now than it ever has. But on this next turn, it's going to be working really hard. You could go to sleep, and the money's making more than you can make.
Give me, because this is a fun one. Even the people that aren't in this home service business that listen to my podcast, they should be fascinated with this. What was the time where you saw so much money in an account, and then you saw the power of like interest or the power of like multiplication, where you're just like, I didn't even do anything, and it just jumped up X. Like, when was that moment that you're just like, oh crap, like that's wild?
Well, so I've got a lot of money in the Goldman account, and I get a preferred return on just even the cash, but it's invested in mostly the S&P 500. And there's this fancy things that we do for taxes. When it goes down, we sell it and buy it back in a month. It's called tax loss harboring. And it's legal. It's like a different tax rule for wealthy. But I looked at you don't even log in because there's such high swings. But one day I was like, today was green like $1 million one day. And I was like,
You didn't do anything, but just
I
like
didn't do
turn
anything.
your phone
But then
on.
like the next week it was down like 400 and 600. And then I'm like,
Yeah.
it's kind of the
It's
casino.
like
until
me
you
watching.
pull the money
It's like
out.
me watching my cryptocurrency.
Yeah. I've done that too. And the deal is like Einstein said the most powerful thing in the universe is compound interest. What people don't understand is when it's working for you, it's the greatest thing on earth. When it's working against you, like interest only, like really like heavy arms or credit cards, like it can destroy people because they're getting their paycheck and paying off their credit cards, but they're paying interest. Really, unless you pay it off and you leave the principal there, you're just paying the interest.
Yeah, they're not buying back their time.
It gets very, very expensive. And people, when they believe in something enough, they'll gamble on bad ideas. If you ever watch Shark Tank, they're like, you're going to take this thing all the way. It's going to take you 10 years to not make a dime.
You'll be on that show one day.
I want to be on
I feel
the
like that you would be like the perfect like shark, like one of the because you got a great personality, you got a great tone. I feel like you're very enthusiastic. I feel like there's a lot of stiffs on that show.
Well, Damon John was just in here
No,
about a month ago.
Man,
yeah, Damon John.
We should just run through here. Let's run through the list of people that have sat in this chair.
Oh man, I don't even know. There's a lot of great people, but it's been fun. I mean, that's what's cool. Damon John's all about like bartering. And he's telling me all these things, and he's explaining me the opportunity. So I've been keeping up with him. He came to the house for a night. I got his top guy that we've been talking about. I was like, what do you guys need? I'm the home service guy. And he's like, we could use, like, he needed something the other day, like, sometime, I don't remember, like, siding or something. And I found him a guy. And he's like, all I'm going to do is endorse the product, but then I'm going to ask for, like, a percentage of revenue. And they do it for free for me. And he's like, and there's certain tax, if you do it right, you still got to pay taxes on the stuff. But he's like, the power of barter is so huge.
Oh, yeah,
and he's
marketing
obsessed
deals.
with it.
Yeah, Gary Vee does it. I mean, I'm in his project called V Friends, the NFT project. I literally just got an email today because I own the Gift Goat token. Gary's sending me like a 55-inch high-end Samsung big screen TV because he probably made a deal with Samsung. He's probably going to do a commercial or something for him, and boop, 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 555 big screens going out the door.
I met Gary Vee one day, and I go, hey, man, big fan of yours. And we were drinking a lot of wine this night. And I was like, you know what's weird? Is it like says your net worth is like $30 million. He's like, that's wrong. He's like, I'm invested in a lot of businesses. But I said, Gary, I got a question because I get this question a lot. When is enough enough? My mom asks me. And he goes, I'm just having fun. And do you ever ask Tiger Woods when he won 4 majors in a row, when are you going to be done golfing? Or is that just your passion and your love? And do you enjoy going forward with it? You see, what Shine is all about is like my personal reputation. It's involved with A1, but so many people they sell their business and they lose a piece of their soul.
Their identity is tied to
their
business.
identity's tied up, and they go, their purpose in life kind of. You think everything leads up to this moment. The money comes, but the purpose goes. It's like, and it's inverted. It's like when you're making money, you're waiting for that big treasure, right? And when you get the big treasure, you're looking just to get the money, like the cash flow. So when you got cash flow, you're waiting for this big lump sum. When you get the lump sum, you're going back to cash flow, because without cash flow, you'll burn through it.
Yeah, you're like, safety. I need safety, and then I need a rush.
Yeah.
Back to safety and a rush.
Well, when you get the cash flow, now you've got a lot of things you could do for the IRS. Right now, you got a business. Now you got write-offs. Now you could take a jet somewhere. As long as you're doing business, it's all a write-off.
Yeah.
The jet costs you a lot of freaking money, but if it's used
Can
for
you
business,
Section 179 a whole jet?
Yeah, you can do 60% this year.
Interesting.
Yeah, so you can appreciate it. We looked at a jet when I did my deal.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys that have jets that aren't even doing as much as you.
Yeah, and that's...
At least that's what they say. So,
No, they do. They do have jets, and we just figured out, like, you can buy a jet for $5 million.
Do you need to travel? How often do you need to travel? I know you go to a lot of conference and events. Are you out acquiring companies? Are there garage door companies that are acquirable?
Lots of businesses.
Okay.
We've got about 12.
I didn't know if you were doing... Do you guys do greenfields at all?
Yeah, we do a lot of greenfield.
Interesting.
But really, I've got a small buy box. They can't be doing a ton of commercial. They don't do new construction.
You got parameters.
Yeah, so we're pretty tight on our buy box.
Yeah, private equity will do that for you.
They're buying everything. They're kind of spraying and praying. They're going, we're going to figure it out. Like, everybody says, man, if I came into the garage door industry, you know how many HVAC guys have tried garage doors and said, what the hell? This is the shittiest business I've ever... Like, they go right back. They get rid of it. You know how many garage door guys have tried HVAC and they never look back? One guy was doing $7 million in 15 years garage doors. His first year in HVAC did $12 million. And so you got these guys going, we're going to do garage doors because, A1's a big company. Everybody knows about it. And I love it because now there's PE guys are all getting in, these competitors, and they don't even know. They don't even know what advanced verification means for garage doors. Garage doors and locksmiths, way harder to get past Google. Like, you got to go to war, like, get all these signs and registrations for your vehicles and, like, all the background checks. And, like, I hope the competition does well. It makes me do better. I love people on my back, like, pushing me. But I just think these guys they're like, we're just going to go do Tommy Mello. Can't be that smart. Like, if he can figure it out, we could. I got 20 years of really smart people around me. Lots of great mentors. It's not me, by the way. Like I said, I make a phone call. I've got a Rolodex.
Yeah, I know that.
I never said I built this. I've got an amazing team.
When was the shift? Because get back to identity. When was the shift? Like, I'm assuming that there was a time when, like, A1 kind of was your identity. I mean, like, we're all young and have, like,
2017 Home Service Expert, the podcast, is when it started to shift. When I realized I could get access to anybody, one guy came up to me and said, when I listened to 1 through 40 of your podcasts, it taught me how to get to 20 million. I listened through 40 to 80, it taught me to get to 30 million. I listened through 80 to 120, it taught me how to get to 50 million. He's like, it's chronological order of everything you had to do in your company to grow. Like, the questions you were asking, he's like, that's how I've been able to grow my business. I was growing alongside of you when I started from 1 to 20. And by the way, I've listened to, like, the first few episodes, and I'm like, oh my God, I was freaking horrible. But then again, I was like, I just want to start a podcast. I did it because I wanted answers, and I knew eventually, if it grew, I could get people on there. So one day I was like, I want to learn more about HR. Like, what's the functions? Like, I don't really like HR. So I found the number one person in HR, and I had him on the podcast, learned a ton. I take 10 pages of notes on the podcast, and that became like a mentor to me. The podcast became I could have access to anything I need help with. And that's really what I used it for. And then all of a sudden, it got me speaking events. And then it was like, then I got on social media. And then now it's like turned into this snowball.
Can't even stop it.
Well, it's like Jeremy Miner says. He goes, would you rather interview? He goes, Tommy, I'd much rather interview a person with $5 billion or 50 million followers. He goes, which one would you rather interview? He goes, I'll take the followers all day long. It's all about eyeballs. He's like, Mr. Beast, right? Look at that, right? I don't know, though. $5 billion. Personally, me, I want to talk to that $5 billion guy to understand, especially if it came from
you
zero.
do because you have a science experiment going on. Like, you're in a lab. This is your lab, and and the rats just keep coming in, and you're getting all the information from the mice. That's really interesting. Who's one guest that you haven't had on yet that you'd love to get on?
I never really thought about that. We have a lot of access to get a lot of people now. People always ask me if you could speak to one person. I think the most interesting person in the world is always the number one, Elon Musk. I mean, Jeff Bezos is up there, but I want to understand, Elon Musk will be the first trillionaire of our day. Like, he will be a trillionaire within 3 to 5 years. He will be for sure. Like, there's no doubt. Like, having the satellites and the things he's doing, the way he's controlling the grid, the way he's controlling the internet, the way he's controlling social media, like it's crazy. And I want to understand the long-term vision, the purpose. Like obviously he's sending people to Mars eventually, and like the chips he's putting in people's brains to solve. Like the dude sold PayPal as a partner and went out and did all this stuff. And what's so crazy about when you become a billionaire and you've got stock in an IPO, you could borrow for very low interest and not pay taxes. Like the tax
Just like in
rules,
real estate, almost.
Yeah, well, the cool thing about it is people are always like, yeah, the rich get richer. Let me just tell you this. If you take all these billionaires' wealth and bring it down to everybody gets $100,000, within 2 years, the billionaires will have it all back. It's not like you give more people. You got to change your processes, your way of thinking, the way you spend. Like people want to make money because they can't wait to spend it. When I made this money, private jet, no. Did I drive first class? Fly first class? Yes. Did I go out and buy a bunch of depreciating assets? No. Did I buy I bought these crystal rocks, amethysts. They're like $100,000, 2 big rocks. They're worth $200,000.
What do you do? What do you do with those?
They sit in the house and they look beautiful. It's actually, I'm putting one in Idaho and one in Phoenix because I think I could build I think you could build a tunnel through time to get from one spot to the other. I'm working on this vortex. No, I'm kidding. It's not real.
Whoa.
But I just like these rocks.
Interesting.
They're from Uruguay. And they're worth a lot of money.
I'm not even sure. I think it's serious. This is what happens when rich people have too much money.
I'm kidding.
Oh my gosh. So I really want to get back to this book, Shine. I know that we didn't get to cover it much. I know you had Gino on the podcast, the 10 disciplines for maximizing your energy. You know a little bit about it. I know you haven't got to read through.
Yeah, we talked all the way through it.
You know, you mentioned a couple principles, like don't do $25 an hour work. You know, that's one of his principles.
Yeah.
Hire an executive assistant. What do you do? Are you into the stillness, meditation? Are you into the yoga? Are you into any of this woo-woo stuff yet?
I haven't been into that or even getting counseling yet. It was very interesting, but what works for him, if you ever meet him, it's not like a guy that you're like kind of go have a beer with. He's a nice guy, but he's very, like you said.
He's introverted.
Before we started the podcast, you're like, he says no to everything.
Yeah. That's another discipline. Say no to everything.
And
or
yes,
say no often. Say no often.
You should saying no is a skill, but I think you miss a lot if you don't have opportunities. If people call me up and they're like, dude, did you see this thing that'll outrank everything on your GMB? Nope, I don't even want to look at it. Like, you lived in this closed-ass door that you can't, like, I like The One Thing by Gary Keller, by you're focusing on one thing. But you got to have people around you that are out there learning and gathering intel. In this day and age, like the software, we just, you had Sebastian in the other room. I was the first one these people called, like, in my industry. And I was the first one Aaron Gaynor called with Eco Plumber. He's like, dude, you got to check out Rilla Voice. And what did I do? I was the first early adopter. Just like Service Center. I was the first guy on Service Center outside of HVAC, plumbing, electrical. I'm the first one on a lot of things. Some of them didn't work.
Yeah.
But it's okay. Because, listen, I am an early adopter, and most of the time, the reason things don't work is because you don't adopt them right, and you expect the software to change, but you got to change kind of the behavior. But, no, I'm really into Gino Wickman. I think it's true. You watch these guys, they'll walk away billionaires, and they'll want to commit suicide. The money, most people are not ready for money. Well, because now you don't trust anybody around you. You got these people with ulterior motives. You don't know who your true friends are. You don't know if a girl really likes you because of its money or because it's actually your personality.
How many girlfriends you been through?
Well, I've got the big one that came up with me through everything. And she's amazing, Bree. But the deal is like...
She's 25.
Yeah, she's...
I met
her when she was 18.
I guess at the end of the day, yeah, you've only been really like jamming for like the last 7 years, right? Like it's not...
It's been on fire since she started at her
So
older
she's your
facility.
superpower.
She's one of the ones
Is
that
she into yoga or meditation or anything like that?
Not really.
No?
We're going to get this spiritual side and figure it out. I want to buy a house in Sedona eventually and go to Vortex and like... But like so Gino was like, dude, when you face your fear, like everyone thinks they have an edge in like why they can't sleep, why they do business all the time. He's like, Tommy, my goal for you is that you only work 200 days out of the year. You take 165 days off. And I go, well, how do you figure? He goes, well, you don't work holidays, you don't work weekends, and you take 1 month off. He goes, he takes August because of big rocks or whatever.
Yeah. Because that's when he's got all those less work.
And I'm like, what does day off mean? He's like, no business. I go, can you read business books? He goes, no.
Nope.
And I'm like,
no thinking about business. When a thought or idea comes to your mind, you got to train yourself to let it go. He probably told you about the book Letting Go.
yeah.
And then what you do is when you come back to your work container, then you're like, if it was a really good idea, it'll actually still be there, and then you'll be able to then start executing on it. And so it's very interesting because a lot of us that were wired like, oh, we got to work, comes from trauma. And so
That's what he says.
This is what I've been learning. And so when you talked about people, you talked about the rich and then you talked about the poor, right? And they both come from trauma. To me, both of those behaviors are usually an inverse of trauma, right? And some
what's trauma? Okay, let's just uncover this. There is trauma because I called you Mister instead of all these.
Well,
like,
yes,
no, but
anything that affects you at an early age.
Everybody has trauma.
Well, no, everybody does. And so, but like some people could have experienced the same life that you did, and they could have stayed poor because they looked at it a different way. You, from what I've learned about you a little bit, is you never wanted money to be an issue.
That's right.
And so you've been working your butt off ever since, and you can't stop. And again, it's great, and you're winning, and you're killing it, and you're crushing it. I think Gino's just trying to give you a different side.
Oh no, and I agree with you, Gino.
Because I think he did the same thing. And then he realized when he sold and when he did this, he was like, man, I'm still I'm not fulfilled, right? How can you just be? And so I think a lot of these, I think there's truth somewhere in the middle, probably.
I believe you're right.
And I don't know yet. I'm going to
read the book. It's sitting on my nightstand.
I'm still exploring.
I'll tell you this. What happens when you go to a doctor? They weigh you. They check your blood pressure. You sit in the room after you fill out the paperwork. The doctor walks in. He smiles. He says, Betty, how have you been? How's the family? Listen, I'm going to run through a few things here. You smoking? Any THC? How's the drinking going? A couple cocktails a week? Tell me a little bit about how much you're exercising. What would you say your diet's like? What would you say, how are you sleeping? Water intake's good? I'm going to look in your eyes. I'm going to look in your ears, your mouth. I'm going to check your blood pressure. Is there anything going on? Are you in pain anywhere? And eventually, he's going to give you like a prescription. That's right for you. But first I think what Gino did is said, this is a universal book, and there's 40 different ways to kind of cope with stress and get back to what the trauma was. Mm-hmm. And he said he was afraid of inner peace because he thought he would lose his edge.
Yeah, his impact. There's impact and peace. But how can entrepreneurs, because you're making a huge impact, and at the same exact time have as much peace? And so, did he show you the infinity circle, like with the model and everything like that?
He told me where to go.
There's a diagram in the book.
And
it's very fascinating. No, it's fascinating. And I thought it was cool that you had him on your podcast. I knew he had that book out, so he was probably doing like a tour, I would assume. And probably.
Yeah. He asked me how many listeners I have on the podcast. I had this certain threshold.
Like he's not going to probably come on my podcast because I only have 12 listeners. I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, he probably wanted to know that because he only wants to spend time on where it can make the most impact. Right, and I like how you do it though. You kind of you say yes when the opportunities make sense, when it kind of can fit in your schedule.
For me, it's the Dan Martell methodology of like some of my best content doesn't really matter to the podcast. Like it's great, and I enjoy it, and I have fun doing it. Like I don't do this. This isn't work for me. I think for him, it's work. It's like great.
Yeah, because he's more introverted.
Yeah, he's definitely an introvert.
It's definitely
this for me. I'm like, dude, let's do it. Like this is where my energy comes from. This is like. And I take notes, and sometimes I have this aha moment. Sometimes I learn something, and then I apply it. Like, I don't look like this. This does not work for me. And for him, you can just tell it's like, he says no all the time, and that's great for him. I say maybe. I say, listen, we'll have to see. And, but here's the deal. The people say they'll outwork me. I'll say I'll outdelegate you. Potentially, my main role is building teams and helping make decisions. And enriching lives and having a lot of fun in the process. What I find is I'll go golfing. I won't think at all about work.
What's your handicap, by the way? You've said golf 8 times. What's your handicap?
I mean, in high school it was a 4. It's probably like a 14 now. It's not great because, quite honestly, I only golf once a quarter.
14's still not bad. I mean, it's still in the top.
You're still in the
top 1%.
Once I get my golf simulator installed at both houses, my plan is to intentionally build the life I want. So if I don't know what it looks like, how am I supposed to manifest anything? So I'm building this life. What am I doing Mondays? What's my morning routine? Like, we've got, this sounds really, like, shitty, but it's not. I've got a chef, a driver.
Bougie.
Like,
it's bougie.
Yeah, bougie.
It's bougie.
But the deal is like,
I love it. You're buying back your time, and you're getting to eat healthy, and, like, you're getting the experience.
The energy level, the way I feel about myself when I look at the mirror.
You're creating a job for someone, too. And that's their passion. That chef, That's what he loves to do. You know what you love to do? You love to build home improvement businesses.
Yeah, but I also love to play with my dogs. I also love to hang out with my friends. And you know what? There's a healthy mix. And it's fun, man. I got to tell you, like, I talked to my buddy Jay Cron, built Kajabi up to $100 million of ARR. And he goes, Tommy, I trade in almost anything, minus family, for my chef. He's like, dude, my life is so much better. The food, because we're doing all these blood tests to see what are your body allergic to, how does it process potatoes,
are you doing
that stuff.
What's that guy's
Gary
name?
Brecka?
Gary Brecka?
I don't know exactly.
Are you on that? Are you on that train? The 10x Health or whatever?
Train, but we're taking a lot of tests, and like with certain blood type tests and everything, and like there are days I feel lethargic, but I think it's because I ate something or I just drank something, or it's like what you put in your body. It's literally the fuel.
The drinking kills you.
Drinking definitely does kill you.
But you're aware of it at least, and you still make that conscious choice. It's not like you don't know.
I'm going to cut it out until September.
What's Martel say about that to you? Because you're working with him, but that's on business. You're not doing the Martel health thing.
Yeah,
do you see that ripped Hulk thing that he posts all the time now? Like him and his wife, like he went from like 90 days. It was like, whoa, bro.
I'm doing that.
So you are going to do that.
I'm not doing it on his program. What I'm doing is like, look, I will be 10% body fat for my big event, the Freedom event in September.
What is that? Tell me about that. I don't know about that.
So we had one last year. There was about 1,000 people. And it was really about wellness. It was about health. It was about being your best self. It was about becoming a better leader. But it was really cool. Like we went through a lot of things. And like I got Jocko speaking at this one. I got Steve Sim.
I know Steve. I'm in Steve Sim's mastermind.
Steve's the man.
Yeah, I'm in
so
this.
Steve's speaking.
I didn't know you're with Steve Sims. That's so
I got
cool.
the best coming. And
love Steve.
It's going to be a game changer. Like last year, it's kind of like Woodstock. The first one was amazing. And I've done Garage Door Freedom stuff, which is vertical track. But people are like, what do I do next? And I'm like, there is a path. But then again, the destination isn't what you think it is. Because you hit the destination and you're like, the destination changes.
Well, Gino
so
says
enjoy the journey.
Yeah, a lot of people think it's a mountaintop. Then you get there and then you're like, crap, you can either go down or what happens is that mountain starts building again. But yeah, it's more of a journey. I've learned that.
And I will say money is great because if you don't, and the Bible doesn't say money is the root of all evil. It says the love of money. Like to be able to afford great people around you and to be able to get way more done and to be able to see the fruits of your labor affecting other lives and actually impacting the bottom line. And it's cool, man. Like I walk into a room and I'm like, yeah, I'm doing it. I'm not just a guy on Facebook saying, I used to do a business. Like, I'm in the battle still. I'm right next to you. I know what's going on in the economy. I know what interest rates are doing. I know what Bidenomics.
That's what I love about you. Because, like, there's very few guys out there. That's why I feel like it's always important. I love helping entrepreneurs just like you do, but it still feels good to be in it, right? To a degree.
I'm not like, I used to do that. I built it and sold it. Like, I'm like, dude, I'm fighting the good fight.
It's like ING. I'm doing it. It only took 48 minutes, Jorge, for him to say the word Bible. So now I have to ask you another question.
Yeah.
What are your spiritual beliefs? Like,
I believe in Jesus Christ.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Did you
100%.
grow up? Did you grow up like that?
Yeah, I grew up. So kindergarten, first, second, third grade was private school, not Catholic, but we were like non-denominational, like hallelujah.
Yeah,
but it wasn't like
Pentecostal.
Gospel. But it was really great. And there are times where it's been tough. I think sometimes you lose your way.
Sometimes.
Sometimes I feel like
a lot of times.
But what happened was my dad's super, like, I wouldn't say he's always followed, like, the word of God, like the Bible perfectly. But he got in the hospital pretty bad because of COVID. And he was in the ICU. And I kind of cheated. You weren't allowed in the ICU, so I bought everybody breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I just, luckily, this was where money came in. And, like, I was just funny.
Influence, come on.
I made them laugh.
Yeah.
I was very nice to them. I was like very respectful, but they let me in and they let me talk to Dad. And one day my sister calls and says, your dad's oxygen levels down to, she always says your dad, it's our dad. She's like, you better go see your dad. His oxygen level's at 60%. He's probably going to die today. And so I kind of fell down. I was devastated. I was like, I didn't know he was going to make it. I didn't know if he would. Like literally, like he was in and out of the hospital, like, for months, he was on oxygen. And so I started praying, and I said, Jesus, if you let him live, if you give me more time with my dad, I will exalt you. I will make sure the reason I'm here is because of you. And I know you put me here. And he ended up pulling through and living. And this guy calls me a year later. And he says, you don't really know me very well, but I know who you are. And this is going to sound really crazy. I'm not a crazy messenger or anything, but did you make a deal with Jesus? Did you make a deal with God? And he goes, were you on your hands and knees praying and something you did? And I go, I got goosebumps. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, this is really odd. He goes, I'm not asking you for money or donations. He's like, I'm going to hang up here in a minute and you never have to talk to me again. But he goes, just remember the deal you made. And remember, he put you here and he could take it all away. And I was like, holy shit. I'm like, okay. And after that, I was like, man, and after that, I started talking about what he's doing in my life and how we're going to church and like really praying more. And we're not perfect. I got to tell you, I'm the best I've ever been, but the worst I'll ever be. Because I know tomorrow I'll be a little bit better. But yeah, I'm definitely a Jesus guy.
How do you feel about? I appreciate you bringing that up. Me too. How do you feel about bringing that up in the business world? And you're at conferences, events, talking to other people. I tell that
story, and I'm like, listen, I'm not here. Just like I don't care about what football thinks. We're there to watch you play football. Yeah, I'm here to tell you what I know about home service. You came to a home service conference. Just so you guys know, I don't care what denomination, what religion you are, but this is my belief. I believe we're going to heaven. I believe there will be a day. I don't know if tomorrow's the last day, but I believe there's a better spot. I believe I'm going somewhere. And it's faith and faith alone. And I'm not trying to put on a clinic. I'm not going to make you guys start praying here. But I will tell you, this is my beliefs, and I owe it because I made a deal. And my dad always tells me, you have a bigger purpose. This is just a stepping stone of where you're going. And you might not see it yet, but there's a bigger plan for you because of what you built so far is just the beginning.
And because of that situation that happened to you and you making that deal with God, you're on one track. Now, let's just say that it didn't go that way and it went the other way. What do you think your life would look like? Or how would your faith be? I don't think I'd blame God.
Be? I don't think I'd blame him. I think because my father died and because I believed he'd be in heaven, I would even believe more. I would say, listen, I want to talk to Dad. I would be looking up, talking to Dad, and that would make me believe too. I wouldn't have been pissed about Jesus. I know a lot of people do. They say, why would Jesus do this to me? Why would he take these people away? And there's this thing that says, I asked God for patience and he gave me hurt people. And I asked God for this and he gave me this. And you never know. If you believe there's heaven, you believe you'll be reunited, then, and it's never easy. Like when someone loses their kid, I can't imagine. Like you've got, what did you say, 18 months?
I have an 18-month-old. I have a 9-year-old. We lost a baby about 6 months ago.
Yeah, that
was tough. My brother got shot and killed 3 years ago, so my parents have lost a son. Yeah, I've got a pretty incredible story. And the only reason that I'm still even here today is because of God's intervention in my life, so that way I could use my gifts to be able to tell more people. I OD'd on fentanyl in 2017, 2 years into my entrepreneurial journey. I should not be here right now.
Holy crap,
yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's...
Did you get stomach pumped?
No, so I did like a line I thought was Oxycontin. After golf, I was at a country club. After golf, I was getting ready to go to fantasy football. And, nobody knew I was doing this. I was just kind of masking this pain. And I dropped over, in my second bedroom office. And my wife and kid were downstairs. He was 3 at the time. My buddy happened to be coming over at the same, that time that I dropped over to pick me up for fantasy football draft. It was late August. He walked in. I was dead on the floor. I just bought a new house, in the suburbs. It was my first big house. It was 4 minutes from the hospital. So all those things happened. And that was in 2017. And it took me till, then COVID happened. I made some other changes in my life because I wasn't really happy with where my track was. And then in 2021, right after I had implemented ELS, had a leadership team, I was feeling great. And I was like, man, I'm on top of the world. My brother got killed. I was on the golf course. at the country club
What's your
playing
handicap?
the member 18.
Okay.
I was playing it. That's the best for tournament golf at a country club, by the way. But anyway, so I get that call and I'm like, why did God say, like, why am I still here? My brother's not here. And I needed to figure out a purpose behind that. And I realized I'm like wasting my life away if I don't like, and I realized too, like, I don't think I'm meant to be like a roofing CEO. Like, I think that was just like a place in my life that like was just a path, right, to help me get into self-development, learn the EOS stuff, create space for myself so I could heal. Gino writes that book, EOS Life, do what you love with people that you love, be compensated appropriately, have time for other passions. And I was like, well, my passion is going to be to help all these other entrepreneurs in this home service industry that are struggling with addiction, that can't figure out a way to like, you know, not have this job that's like basically anchoring them down so that way they can get the space to heal. And so like I've just been on a mission for like the last couple of years to like, that's when I started the podcast like 2 years ago. I'm like, I need something to do. First of all, they tell you to get out of the office, you know, because you're driving the integrators nuts.
Yeah.
So, and Gary Vee's like always chirping in me like, start a podcast. So kind of like you, I'm like, you know, let's see where it goes, right? And so, yeah, and one thing led to another. And I spoke at VCon, Gary Vee's conference last year. EOS asked me to speak at this conference. And, you know, I'm just trying to get in front of more people because I'm so passionate about like helping people and finding like, you know, figuring out like what the purpose of life is. And it really is through a relationship with Jesus Christ.
It is.
Firmly believe. I entered that relationship when I was 7, lucky to grow up in a Christian home, straight away for many years, you know, trying to make money, trying to chase things, right? And yeah, and so like this is what I'm passionate about, talking about this stuff. Yeah, I mean, growing businesses and scaling businesses is fun. We could talk about it all day long, and I think it's very interesting because I was always, you know, my first guy that I looked up to, I was in car sales back in 2000. I was 18 years old, and I went to a Grant Cardone workshop before social media was out. Yep. And so I saw that guy come. I'm like, dude, I want to be like Grant. Well, then Grant disappears, and like there's nothing like to see. Plus, I probably wouldn't have wanted to watch it anyway. I probably would have even ended up in worse shape, chasing right all the stuff without the guidance too, right? Without the shepherding of. And so that's what I love about these guys. Some of these, you mentioned mentors, and I know you invest a lot in your personal development. You know, guys like Ed Milet and guys like, you know, Gino, like there's good humans, man. Like good humans doing good things.
They are good.
They're successful in business.
Joe Polish, I really like.
Joe Polish, yeah, he's in the, he's, you know, him and Gino are in this. They're all, these guys are all on that same network. Like they're all in like this. Are you in that like strategic coach and like?
I'm not in
like,
the Dan Kennedy, but I'm in Joe Polish's group. Or Dan Sullivan. Yeah, Dan Sullivan.
Joe Polish has got a big group. I know Steve Sims is in that group, I think.
I don't know if Steve's in there, but I'm part of the Genius.
So the Genius Network, yeah. So that's a goal of mine one day is to.
I had Steve on the podcast a long time ago. Like I really liked when I read Blue Fishing.
Yeah.
And like the deal is for me, you know, fame's cool. It's cool when people know you for home service, like
as long as you're doing something good with it.
But like for me, it's like, dude, I cannot wait. Like I'm happy in the now, but I'm living in 2 houses full of construction. And, like, that's kind of a pain in the butt. But I don't even mind it, man. Like, I look at these challenges and these competitors and the people, the haters, and I'm like, great, good. You know? I'm like, I don't really care anymore. Like, I used to want to be a people pleaser and just, like, I don't want to have, like, I'm a good person. Why would you say that? I used to take it personally. And now I'm like, man, haters are, like, a good thing. Because they're just, they hate because they ain't. You know, I always say I had never seen a hater doing better than me.
What's our boy Cat Williams say? You ever watch that? Cat, you know who Cat Williams is?
I'm trying to think.
That comedian that wore the green jacket, like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
He said something about if you ain't got 15 haters, you ain't doing something good enough. You know, and that's all good. But
they all are, man.
I really appreciate this time today. I know I hit you up out of nowhere, cold DM'd you on Facebook. I'm like, dude, I'm going to be in Phoenix. Like, I know you're a big deal, and I know I would love to have the chance to interview you. I appreciate you saying yes.
Yeah, I love
taking
this
a
stuff.
chance. I know it's an hour out of your time, and so if there's anything I can ever do to help you or your people, you know, let me know. Yeah, it's been fun, man. I appreciate it. Is there anything else that I didn't ask you that I should have asked you?
Well, you know, it's interesting. Before you got here, I was doing a shop tour, just a couple businesses. I was very fortunate that everyone said yes to me, this little broke garage door guy trying to find his way. And I decided it's a few things for me. I get to brag on the people that work hard and have built this business up. They get to meet them. They get to see the training center. The place is always a little more clean because they know there's guests always here. And number 3, it's a great way to give back. So we do, if you go to tommymello.com/shop, it's free. I'll give you a bunch of books. You'll sit down. I'll do a Q&A. You can see how we do business. I don't make anything. I don't ask for anything in return. But I just ask that you bring an open mind, a pad of paper, and you implement some of the stuff you take out of here. So if you go to tommymello.com/shop, so many people open their doors for me. They open up their house. So I think it's important. So if anybody wants to come out here, we do several of them a month. We have fun doing it. It's another time for me to like brag on the people.
Yeah.
And a lot of people leave here. They're like, their minds are changing. You just see their mindset shift forever. And I have people that call me after 3 months. They say, dude, I was about to lose my wife. I was about to go through a divorce, lose my kids forever. Everything's changed. And I didn't do anything. They answered some questions that they did. They just changed their mindset. Or now I'm my kid's soccer coach again. Or now I'm hanging out with my parents again. Or now I'm a good founder and I'm actually paying attention to the people. And I'm not shitting on my employees. Like that's the stuff. That means more to me than money at this point because money's been,
it doesn't mean anything anymore. It's just a measuring stick. Man, you just said something else I want to talk about. So you have that ability, you have like that visionary skill set to see it. You obviously had people that showed you how to get there. But like, if that $2, $3, $4, $5, $10 million contractor that's out there that, reads the books about vision and like what's my business look like in 10 years, and they're trying to dream about all these employees and trucks and businesses. Well, you don't have to dream anymore. You can just come to Phoenix, Arizona, and just actually like see what it looks like in real life. Like when I was just seeing like the big sign that says we're hiring, seeing all the trucks. Probably too many trucks sitting in the parking lot. Not enough butts and trucks. That's why I was like, man, that's a lot of trucks just sitting here.
That's all the guys training. Those are the used trucks. Those are the old
and then having the
training trucks.
And then having the university, and then having the marketing studio, the podcast studio, having conference rooms and seeing the hustle and bustle. I mean, when I walked into VaynerMedia, that was like, whoa, dude, 26th floor, Hudson Yards, glass all around, conference rooms all around, bunch of young kids just in there, marketing nerds. Like when you see that, you're like, oh, like it's possible. It's like he's got a whole section of the room. He's got like 4 different companies there, and one of them's just the Gary V personal brand.
Oh, yeah,
And he's like, and it's like, all right, well, now a guy like me and you that like are trying to grow a personal brand can like just go there.
I mean, I'll have a few $1 million this year in labor into the personal brand.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is, like, when I learn how it works, and I know how it works now,
You're gonna be implement all the
it's
mentors.
not even fair that they like now that I understand this. Because if you really understand, if you go after YouTube, like YouTube alone will pay you AdSense to pay for the whole team over the course of a year. And then you're putting 2 people on YouTube, 1 on LinkedIn, 1 on TikTok, 1 on Instagram, 1 on X. You got person handling messengers, and you do it correctly and ethically, and you're not just trying to sell snake oil. And you grow the listenership of the podcast. You got a publicist that you're getting on real TV. All of a sudden, like it's crazy how it works, but it's just exponential growth. And now that I understand it, it's like I didn't till Dan Martell kind of explained it and he proved it. And I was like, dude, this is what Gary Vee, this is what Alex Ramosa, this is what these guys do. And just because I'm cocky, competitive, I'm not cocky. I try to be as humble as possible, but I don't want to be like Gary Vee. I want to whoop their ass.
Yeah,
I want to take. I mean, listen. I'll tell Dan straight up. I go, Dan, I'm gonna be better than you at this. And I'm like, you give me the beginning. He goes, you're one of a few people I believe on this planet that could beat me in this game. He goes, because I'm competitive too. But he goes, your drive is really unmatched.
And your implementation skills, like that, come like almost. It's like you obviously have some type of skill. The one thing that we can do, and I can help you with, is I have a contractor mastermind that I partnered with Joseph Hughes on.
What is it?
A contractor mastermind.
Okay.
Because he really has had this high ticket marketing education thing, and not everyone could afford to get into that. So me and him wanted to kind of give back and kind of like do something. It's a small investment, small amount of time, an hour a week. We actually do meetups all over the country, and we have like 40 or 50 guys in this mastermind. And what I'm thinking now is if you're going to open your doors to show these guys, maybe we can do an event down here where it's like, hey, contractors from whatever industry you're in, come.
Yeah, I'd love to do it. I can bring in some cool people too.
Yeah, we'll do like a little event.
A lot of people.
Maybe we get Steve Sims to come over here.
Hey, come out.
He's hilarious. So
Steve's going to be at the event. If you guys want to come, it's an investment in yourself. I promise you. everybody thinks like these events, you're like, how much money are you making?
Sure,
you're
you
lucky
lose
to
money.
break
You
even
probably
on
lose
an
money
event.
on the first 5 years
Oh,
of an
yeah,
event.
that's lucky. But it's freedomevent.com. It's going to be in September. Right here. I've got it right here. It'll be in San Diego, California, September 25th through the 27th at the San Marquis San Diego Marina. If you go, just get.
That was
this
just
is a
that
long
was just
domain.
it. That's where the EOS conference was just at the right in San Diego. That's awesome. We'll put that up there on the show notes.
This will be. I just promise you. I probably won't rip my shirt off, but I'm going to be under 10% body fat, and that's my plan. So I'm putting it out there for everybody to know.
What are you at right now?
I'm at 18. I was at 16, and I
So
goofed off a little
it's like
bit.
your body fat's gonna be like your handicap. You just gotta keep
You
working.
got to
on
get it down. And listen, the chef helps. The supplements help. The stuff I'm doing. But here's the deal: you walk and talk on the phone a little longer. You watch your calories. You work out a few times a week. It just melts off. I mean, your six packs are made in the kitchen, and that's what's exciting. Is I want to go there and I want people to be like, dude. Because I don't want to be skinny. I want to be like, dude, what the frick? Like, I love when people look at me and they're like, you look like Gronk. And I'm like,
you do
no,
you
he looks like me.
Gronk. You do look a little bit like Gronk.
Yeah.
Though. That's good. All right. Well, listen, I appreciate it. We're
Thanks,
gonna wrap
Benny.
this up.
I
Appreciate your time, man.
brother.
This has
Very fun.
been another edition of the Big Fish Cares podcast. If you got value, like, subscribe, comment, do all those things, and you're gonna see more Tommy. We gotta get a discount code. We gotta get a Big Fish discount code. And let me see. Get some.
Just set me up and set it up.
I'll set some tickets for you.
Let's do it, man.
All right.
Thank
see
you
you guys.